How have you experienced vulnerability within relationships, and how have you walked that line where you've been open and vulnerable in order to allow the depth of connection, but also maintaining the strong frame so that you're respected as well? Because I think sometimes, we throw around these words and people hear, oh, I need to be more vulnerable. Oh, I will talk to my girlfriend endlessly about my problems. That's me being vulnerable. She's there like, this guy, shut up. Like, I'm getting the ick. I'm getting a heavy ick from his vulnerability. But yet we're having a conversation saying, hey, well, ultimate vulnerability is strength. So what does that look like? What does vulnerability within a relationship as a man look like in a way that you maintain your integrity, you maintain respect, and the masculine, feminine frame within a relationship? How have you walked that path? Any lessons you have there?
I think a massive one is action. Doing the things that you said you're going to do, and then communication. I think by the more that we communicate in a vulnerable way, but in a way that shows that we are taking accountability and responsibility for where we currently are and what that we're wanting. We can't just say, oh, I want this and I'm upset that I don't have this, so I'm just going to cry about this. You know what I mean? Like your girlfriend's going to be looking at you like, dickhead, But if you say, I'm not happy where I currently am, this is what I'm wanting, and these are my steps or the collective of people that are going to allow me to get there. How is it that you can maybe help me, or this is what I'm currently wanting from you in this aspect, and how can I serve you in this that I'm doing, but also in what you're doing? I think a big thing for us is to be able to show the direction of where we're heading. And if we don't have direction, it's very hard for the opposing sex or someone else to get behind you. It's like saying to an investor, hey, I want this, but I have no idea of how I'm going to get there.
Yeah.
Like they're going to be like, well, I'm not backing you because you don't even know what you're doing yourself. So I think the vulnerability comes where massively in communication. The more you communicate, the more they'll communicate, but with a plan, with a bit of a procedure.
With the direction. Man, I love that. From your experience perspective, what's one thing that guys want from a partner that girls don't perhaps realize? And what's one thing that girls want from a partner that guys don't perhaps realize? Do you see any missing slots or kind of areas where we're not quite meeting eye to eye?
I think, like we obviously want peace from women. Our days are hard enough. Like we're kind of battling things day in, day out. When we come home, we want peace. We want calmness. The opposing side, what do women want that men aren't giving? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard one for you to answer, right? Because you're not a woman.
Yeah, I was about to say it's a very difficult one for me to answer, but I don't know.
Yeah.
My opinion on that is hard to speak.
I think that's fair.
I'm unsure. Yeah.
It's interesting because we've had this, Andrew Tate's been a huge influence on kind of modern consciousness. And I think he's I really like an awful lot of his message. Yeah. There's been some ideas that I think young guys have taken on, and his message has matured, but there's been some things that guys have taken on maybe quite they've received it with the kind of current level of ignorance of where they are, and they've maybe missed the message. And there's this kind of thing of, it's like, guys can sleep around, that's fine, because we don't, it's different for us, like we just have desires, but girls, no, like you can't do that, we want you kind of like fresh and okay, an interesting perspective. Let's explore it. So, but I think like a lot of young guys have kind of heard this stuff and they're like, oh, it's giving me free reign to do whatever the fuck I want. And also now I have these kind of expectations of girls.
Yeah.
How do you view all of that? Like kind of, the sleeping around side of things, does it affect relationships? Does it not matter? Can we all sleep with as many people as we want to and it doesn't have any effect? Is it different for guys? Is it different for girls? I don't know. No, it's a contentious one.
I think it definitely has an impact on relationships. in the short term and also in the long term.
Mm.
I feel like there is a very big difference between women and men sleeping around.
Mm.
I definitely believe that. But at the same time, the reason I say this is because, you know, as a female, your femininity has to be preserved.
Mm.
And for us, our masculinity has to be developed.
Mm.
So as a woman, you don't have to do anything essentially to be slept with.
Mm.
But as a man, you have to build yourself to a position that you're even considered as a potential to be slept with.
Mm.
I think ultimately us sleeping around as men, that's like the thing that you do, because this is how you when you're younger, to develop yourself amongst the boys almost, you know, to like kind of earn your stripes a little bit, if you could say that.
Yeah.
And the opposing side to that is like if a woman does that and moves in the same way that we move as younger men or as men in general, it's like they're outcasted, because purity has always been a desired trait in a woman due to the fact that you knew that she was the mother of your children. The more men that she slept with, the less you actually knew who was the mother of that.
Yeah.
Or the father, sorry, of that child.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, it's quite different. We're not in tribal times. We have birth control. We have contraception. We have all these kind of things, which is, I think, a positive, but it's also a massive negative. There's been a lot that's changed since contraception. Also, not only that, like contraception has affected our women internally on a chemical level, in a hormonal level. But ultimately, yes, I think sleeping around definitely affects relationships long term and your ability to pair with one person long term.
Yeah, no, I fully agree, and it's an interesting one, right? Because girls want to date as much as guys want to date, and I do feel we kind of went through this stage of probably when we were both young, we're the same age. Modern culture and we were telling girls what we wanted and what we valued. If you look at the TV programs that were out at the time, we had like Geordie Shore in the UK. I don't know if you probably had something similar.
Yeah, we had Geordie Shore. Yeah.
Oh, you had Geordie Shore. It's just fucking trash, where it's like the whole thing is who slept with who. Oh, now she slept with, and everything the guys wanted was kind of getting whatever they said. I don't know, getting their body count up. Or if that's all you hear as a message, as you know, a young girl and someone who's developing, you start to believe, okay, well, I want to date. If this is what guys want, okay, like, you know, you kind of, all right. And now we're kind of getting to this stage where it's like, well, actually, no, like it's the purity we wanted, which I agree, even if we didn't realize it as guys. But I do feel like there's this kind of gap of girls who kind of grew up around them, grew up around that time. And it's difficult now because
very much so.
They kind of like, well, this is what you wanted, you know, and now you're like, I can't take it back. And I'm kind of curious. Do you see? I spoke to someone the other week, and he talked about, as guys, how you can energetically purify yourself to allow space for the right relationship to come in. Do you see anything similar for kind of like girls as well? Like, what would you look for? Like, if you're considering a partner, how important is history? Is there things where it's like, oh, okay, you're not even considered? Or, you know, what do you look for in a woman, in a partner, where you're like, this is someone, you know, I'm willing to kind of allow closer in to kind of my orbit, my life?
Well, I'll touch base on, first of all, like the sleeping around thing, and what we currently wanted at that time, and you know, the women that kind of filled that void, if you could say that. I believe that, you know, women and men, we're very sexual creatures. Women and men want it most probably a very similar amount. Really speaking, girls love to have sex as much as we love to have sex. We just have this masculine desire of reproduction, this conquer type feel.
Spread the seed,
just literally spread the seed, you know.
Yeah.
So we whether we are interested in someone, a lot of the time, like, men could sleep with someone that they would not find the person that they would like to commit to. You know, like many men have done that.
Yeah.
And a lot of that Geordie Shore stuff, they'll sleep with these girls, but they're not going to commit to these girls. And I think this is where the difference in lies. I think previously that's been the case, and now people are kind of catching on a little bit. These women are getting to their 30s, blah, 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 wanting to settle down after they've enjoyed playing the field, and then no one wants to commit to that.
Yeah.
So we both definitely played a role in that as men and as female and as women. But like you said, we had the Geordie Shores, we had the American Pies, we had like all of these things were just like, it was just the pure goal of like smashing birds.
Yeah.
You know, like to be completely honest.
It was more for the boys sometimes. Like, it was like,
absolutely.
yeah.
Fucking oath, like, you know, like if you look at American Pie, there's like the scenes of nudity and there's like the ultimate goal of sex.
That was the be all and end all.
That was the be all and end all. It's like, I'm going to go to prom, I'm going to graduate, and I'm going to smash.
Yeah.
You know, if you can put it like that.
Yeah, it was.
Literally. So now, that is still ingrained in us, and I think that will always be ingrained in us simply due to the fact that we are red-blooded males and like we have testosterone, and our testosterone levels are like as a younger age, they're massively through the roof, and then they start to decline. But if you take that all into consideration, it also comes down to us controlling our impulses as a man.
Yeah.
You know, we have the ability to sleep with women, but if you just slept with every woman that your masculinity or your biology said to just sleep with, you'd be sleeping with women and doing nothing else. So what I want in a woman, if we touch base on that, it would be one, purity. I don't personally want a girl that everyone slept with. I don't think any of us do. I want someone that brings peace in my life. I want someone that has hobbies in her life for herself, things that she's interested in, things that, to me, that's such an attractive trait. I don't really care what it is. It's like if you sing, if you dance, if you write, but that's what you're passionate about, I'm like, that's sexy as.
Yeah.
Like just do your thing and I'm happy, you know. And I want someone that's mentally stable, that have good family values and morals and standards.
Yeah.
That's it to me. Like attraction, I don't have a type. Like the type to me is attributes, the person's character. Yeah. You know,
it's like a vibe. It's an energetic type, perhaps. But it's interesting you said about like if we were guys and we do have these you know urges. Yeah. We all do. Impulses. Like I mean, I remember I read the book Way of the Superior Man when I was like, I don't know how I came across it. It must have been like 19 or something. I was in uni. I read it and I was reading this book and I was like, am I allowed to read this? Like I hadn't heard any of this kind of side of what you maybe would call more red pill stuff now. And I started implementing those things and I was like, this is like, am I cheating? Like this all works. But one of the biggest things talks about in that book is those urges that you feel. That's your creative energy. It's the drive to create, to procreate, but to create. And it talks about, you know, we're both into kind of some breathwork, breathing techniques as well. It talks about how when you feel that energy, awesome. Don't suppress it. Don't be like, judge yourself. Oh no, why am I such a terrible man for finding someone attractive? Breathe it up. Breathe it in. Like that's your creation energy. Now you can either spurt it out, go home, have a mental fantasy, waste the energy there, or you can
use that as a driving force.
You can use that as a driving force for something better. I think that's really interesting. Have you read that book?
Yeah, I've got it. That's a book that I touch base on once a year at least. Yeah, I've got the hard copy and I bang the audio book.
Mate, the audio book is awesome. Yeah. Whoever the voice actor is for that, they've got this guy who's got this deep, as a man.
Very stoic. Deep, yeah.
Yeah, mate, I wish he would read like every audio book I have because he's just awesome.